What up, everyone? We're back. New episode. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good. How you guys
Not
doing?
not too bad. I'm doing pretty good too.
That's good. You know who isn't having a good time? Me. As a Bruins fan, I am pissed, especially at a certain man named Don Sweeney, because this man is a complete bum. He blames every year there are issues. Even the year before and the year after we broke the wins record, there were issues. And who does he blame? The coaches. One coach has gone off and won a Stanley Cup the year after he leaves his Boston and Bruce Cassidy. Claude Julien, who Don Sweeney fired, won a Stanley Cup here in Boston before Sweeney arrived. Jim Montgomery goes out, simply breaks the all-time win record in a regular season at 65 wins. No coach has ever done that. And then this year, they are 8-3. They are one of the weakest teams in the NHL so far. Looking at the numbers, shout out Mark Russi for this. But this man, we are 31st in goals for per game, 28th in goals against per game, last in power play percentage, and 25th in penalty kill. Okay. And we went out, signed our goalie over $8 million. We went out and signed a defenseman. We went out and signed a defenseman that ended up being dog water so far because he leads the league in penalty minutes. Can you believe that? The man we gave over $5 million a year to, a man who is supposed to go out and be a cornerstone for this defense, has completely lost it. Take a look at this, okay? Nikita Zadorov. $5 million for like 6 years, and he's all leading the league in penalty minutes. He's a -1. Lindholm, we give $7.7 million to be our number one center, and he's on pace for less than 41 points. Like, if you're making $8 million a year, you need to be point per game, and he's on pace for less than half of that. But of course, it's the coaching problem, not Don Sweeney. Just unfucking real that this is your first line center's numbers. Like, what kind of replacement is that? Then goal scoring was already our number one issue heading into the offseason. So we get rid of a 20-goal scorer, Jake DeBrusk, and replace him with bums, literal bums. We get blown out night in, night out, and we're blaming the coach? The guy who coached this team to 65 wins? Like, yes, he's been a problem with his bad, constant line changes, certain guys. But the thing is, he's not even the guys calling people up and sending people down. People want to see Fabian Lysell. He's not getting called up. He's looking like a bust. Who drafted him? Don Sweeney. So, and then all these other guys, we have no speed. We have no depth to come up and play NHL. We got a bunch of bruisers down in the AHL. But we have bruisers in the NHL. We don't need them. So, yeah, that's my quick little rant. Don Sweeney, his head needs to be on a stake for the way he's been running this team the last 3 years. And then, going back, bro, they traded Taylor Hall for a 6th-rounder like 2 years ago. In the name of saving cap space to hopefully go get a big-time forward. We were rumored for so many forwards. Jake Gensel, he was supposed to be over here in Boston. Instead, he got traded to Tampa and has been lighting up for them. And the Lightning, when they're supposed to be going downhill now after winning 2 Stanley Cups, no, they're having a little bit of a resurgence as one of the top teams in the division this year. So, yeah, that's my little Bruins rant. The Bruins, and then, oh, wait. I almost forgot one last thing. I almost forgot.
You can tell bro is a Bruins fan with how passionate he is about this.
Bro, we were talking to Jim Montgomery about extending him yesterday. Before we fired him, we wanted to sign him. How does that happen? How do you go from wanting someone for multiple seasons to saying, nah, you have to leave right now? Just bad general managing. And this shows like so many teams are ran into the ground through ownership not willing to fire a GM like Don Sweeney, who needs to get fired after this decision. So yeah, I know neither of you two are. Yeah.
A lot of teams are doing that recently. I feel like way too many GMs are getting second chances, third chances, fourth chances, and we're seeing guys like Robert Saleh get fired first when the defense was your best strong suit, and you get rid of him, keep the GM, and don't get me wrong, I don't even think the Jets firing the GM was the right choice because he drafted a lot of great players. I think it comes down to just more like the Aaron Rodgers experiment just didn't work, and nobody on that roster wants to take accountability. That's the bigger issue. But firing the GM, I think, is a new leaf, smart move still. But way too many teams, like New England needs to fire their GM.
They do.
How many times do the Patriots need to draft like a horrible wide receiver and so many better ones go later? Like we took Tyquan Thornton over, I think, Pickens, right?
Yep. Took Thornton over Pickens. Then we also took N'Keal Harry over AJ Brown. Imagine that combination. And Debo. Imagine that combo. George Pickens with AJ Brown or Debo Samuel. But no, we got no one.
So do you think if the Patriots fired Bill Belichick and instead fired the GM at that time, or still the GM right now, do you think things would be different?
I think it'd be better.
I think if you fired the GM and kept Bill around, you probably trade the pick to the Giants and let the Giants go up and get Drake May. And you probably at 6 take Neighbors. And then you have 2 first-round picks next year. The Giants are still a bottom team. And you probably are looking at getting like Cam Ward right now.
Or Shador.
Cam Ward with Malik Neighbors.
Yeah. It's just like...
having a guy like Malik Neighbors, and that'd be nice.
It would be. The Patriots would have actually had a number 1 wide receiver. When was the last time the Patriots had a number 1 receiver? Not like Edelman was like a fringe because so many people at the time, now we look back so fondly of Julian Edelman and Amendola, Hogan, of that receiving core. But living in the moment, you were looking at other teams like, okay, they gave out a better wide receiver 1. The last time we had a wide receiver 1 in their prime, we had Brandon Cooks for a year, but we never have a great wide receiver for more than 2 years because Randy Moss was here for 2.5 years. But of course, Randy missed a year of Brady, so you can knock his total time of really being that X factor that we needed gone.
Remember the Josh Gordon year too?
Oh, Josh Gordon actually did light it up, bro. Josh Gordon was kind of hype in New England. I'm not gonna lie.
Now he's balling out in the what is it, the XFL or something? He's in some kind of pro league now, or after pro league.
Yeah, and he was
I think it's the UFL now.
Is it UFL? Yeah, something like that.
It's called UFL. They mixed them together.
Yeah. But, speaking about the Jets and their poor ownership decisions, Woody Johnson has made some incredible choices over there. Taking a look at his recent history of being a bad owner, first fired Saleh, it came out he didn't consult with anyone about this decision. He was just like, no, we're good. Then, of course, block the Bryce Huff extension. I didn't know this. They tried to get Jerry Jeudy when he was available before the Browns got him. And they ended up nicking that trade. Lazard was supposed to be
To
a
be
part of
fair,
the
that's probably a
package.
good move, to be honest.
It wasn't a bad decision.
Lazard might be better than Judy.
Refusing the Hassan Reddick contract demands, that's an interesting one to me because we all remember the whole reason Hassan Reddick wanted out was because he wanted a team who would meet his demands. So why even trade for him if you, from day one, weren't planning on signing him? Then, of course, you got the pushing for Tyron Smith and Mike Williams signings. Then wanted the Adams trade after the fact, but that Adams trade has been rumored for like over a year. Benching Tony Adams against staff wishes. Johnson apparently had some serious micromanaging, firing assistant GMs, and Joe Douglas knew his job was at the end of his tenure already before the day came. And do we just not realize just how important the owner really is in all of this? We grew up being told owners are hands off. It's up to the head of player personnel. But slowly, as we've gotten older, it seems more and more like owners micromanage the shit out of stuff.
No, they definitely do. I think we're seeing it obviously in Dallas with Jerry Jones. I think New England's kind of been showing it a bit more lately, where ownership's taking more hands-on approach. And I think one team that has been kind of always on the opposite end of it, but I think it still hasn't worked out, being the Jaguars. I feel like their owner's always been very hands-off, but I think he's been stepping more in recently with how bad the situation just keeps getting in Jacksonville.
Chad Khan.
There's like two ends of the totem pole. You either have an owner who like is way too carefree and ignores stuff for way too long, or an owner who is way too hands-on. And it's like there's a middle ground that isn't that hard as an owner to come to, and that's just understand you're a businessman who knows nothing about football other than being a fan. Hire someone who you trust to run the team and give faith in them. And if they suck, get rid of them, try over. Don't step in, take control. That's not going to solve the solution. And I just think owners have way too much money, too much power that they're never going to do that. But
Yeah, I agree.
I
And
feel like it's pretty evident when owners try to micromanage it that it never works out too well. So
yeah, and I mean, even taking a look at this, I mean, obviously there's a lot more to a GM's job than drafting.
he did have a lot of good draft
But
picks.
he did. Joe Douglas did a good job. And then even on the misses category, Elijah Moore, second rounder, bit of a reach.
I don't
He
think
hasn't
that's a
been
miss.
terrible. Yeah, he hasn't been terrible.
he had that one solid year. I feel like I could be wrong, but I thought he
Sauce
had one good year
Gardner,
with the
Garrett
Jets
Wilson,
before they
Brees
kind of just like
Hall.
stopped using him.
Yeah. Michael
Jermaine
Carter,
Johnson.
he kind of balled out for a year and a half for the Jets. I wouldn't say that's a miss. They just shipped him off to Arizona. But some of these hits, like Nico's was saying, like Sauce, Garrett Wilson, like there's some big time names. And these weren't like top 3 picks. They're middle of the first round where it's like you kind of gotta, you got 2 or 3 options you gotta hit on and know which one or which 2 out of 3 are gonna be good. And 8 times out of 10, Joe Douglas actually knew who to go get. Now, of course, his trading and draft record is a different story because that has to do with Aaron Rodgers. But as we just saw from the Woody Johnson post, Woody Johnson wanted Adams. Odds are he wanted Aaron Rodgers, considering he's the one who wanted Brett Favre all the way back in 07, 08 when Favre left Green Bay. So a lot of the weaker decisions have been on the owner, not Joe Douglas. And I find that just very shocking and very telling of where a lot of these teams are. Same with the Jerry Jones stuff. But yeah, that's how that is. Let's get a little more positive and away from teams not missing the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it'd be cool if I want to see what you guys are thinking. Maybe we go into some of the teams we think are going to be in the championships for AFC, NFC this year. I have a pretty interesting one for one of the side. I think I'd say actually two interesting picks for that. I think just overall, a lot of teams like the Jets were almost, for me at least, a guaranteed playoff spot. Same with the Bengals, same with the Cowboys. But seeing them gone kind of has me changing who I think I could see going farther, because I think it's just going to be one of those years like that 2018 year where we just see so many random QBs make it far. So I'm curious to see who you guys have. I'll let you guys go first for this one.
All right. Well, first, let's bring up the current playoff situation as it stands of recording this. This is what we're looking like. The top seed, Kansas City, Detroit. And at least for me, I think Detroit can be a top seed who goes all the way. I mean, I know that's not that hard of a take, but of course we've just started doing this. But you two can back me on the fact that I have said for years that I said this year would be the Lions' year. Last year was just their make a good playoff run, look really good, but they're still just a step away. And that's what it looked like they were last year. And then a year before that, I said they might sneak into the playoffs. They might barely miss out, which is what ended up happening. So
yeah, I think Dan Campbell's hungry for that ring.
Oh, yeah. Not only him, but Brad Johnson sticking around, telling other teams that, hey, we're a Super Bowl contender. Who?
Ben Johnson,
Ben,
not Brad.
Not Brad. I had the quarterback for the Buccaneers in my head. Brad Johnson, Buccaneer legend. But Ben Johnson, still the killer OC over there down in Detroit.
Quick thing about Ben Johnson. We think Bears is open for him? He said Bears was his most wanted team.
Like, he wants to go to the Bears?
Yeah, back when he was the last window was open, he was saying the Bears were the team he was interested in. I think he wanted to draft his own QB, which was part of it.
I mean,
but maybe he goes and tries to get a young guy like Williams. But
if he wanted Caleb Williams as his guy, I could see him doing it. I'm a little surprised to stay in division, but maybe when it comes to coaching changes, that's not as big of a deal as when like a high key player switches teams. But I could see him honestly going to Chicago. I mean, Adam Schefter reported 7 and 9 coaching jobs are going to be up this season. So
Bill
the Bears
Belichick
feels like an obvious one to
Jaguars
be one
for
to open.
Belichick.
No, I mean, I genuinely think Bill Belichick is going to be the Bengals head coach. Zach Taylor is going to get fired. Bill Belichick is going to be like Burrow. And he's going to have probably not T. Higgins unless they franchise
Honestly,
or transition.
Either one of those sounds like it'd be a fucking
But
nice fit
I think the Bengals' biggest weakness and the reason that they are all the way down there at the bottom of the AFC North damn near at 4-7 is because of their defense. They have the offense. Bill knows offense is not his strong suit. So he's going to keep that offense around. He's going to make the minor adjustment needed on the defensive side. Oh, I said that weird. But I could see the Bengals next year looking like an early 2010 Pats when their offense was top 5, their defense was hovering around 12th, 13th, like high, above league average, but not wicked high because there was a young defense. There wasn't that much talent around, like Pat Chung, Devin McCourty, Gerard Mayo. They were all rookies or within their first couple years. I could see the Bengals being a perfect opportunity for Bill to get that high-touted offense built around him already, and so he can make the defensive adjustments as necessary. And so I think the Bengals are perfect for him.
Hear me out, though, for why Belichick to Jacksonville is something interesting.
His girlfriend.
Bill Belichick gets his Swiss Army knife, and Travis Hunter was the first pick.
He could do that. He could. If the Jaguars even land, I mean, although I've seen a lot of rumors that Travis Hunter could be a Patriot. Now, I'm not sure what the exact draft order is at the moment.
I don't think he falls. New England's at 6 right now. New England would have to fall a little bit farther. I think they have to have top 3 to get him.
I agree.
I
didn't realize you were that high now.
Because New England is top 5 money, and if they don't go for O-line in free agency, they're drafting one. But with how much money they have, I think it's probably a better bet to just heavily draft or sign O-linemen, get secured, known, really good O-linemen. And then in the draft, you're way more open to do something you want where you could maybe build up the secondary again, go like Travis Hunter. But I think the more
And
interesting
target those
idea,
star players.
I really like the idea of either getting McMillan from Arizona or trade down, get Amika late first or mid first.
That's not bad. It's not bad. I think a trade
Or
down,
Luther
especially for the
Burns.
Patriots, could be just such a good idea. We talked about it a little before we start, or maybe it was already on the show. But I mean, we should have done it this year. I mean, I love Drake May. May has become better than anything I could have expected out of him this year.
Mm-hmm.
But I still would not have minded the trade down to the Giants. We're the ones with neighbors, and we're still missing out on a QB. But it gives us another year to build the O-line, build everything else up. Because Colin Cowherd has talked about this before. A lot of people have. And I'm also of the impression that you need, if you're building a team, QB should not be the first thing that you go out and get. And it felt like that's what the Patriots did in this offseason, was they felt like we need to start from the ground up, hence firing Bill. And they went out and got QB to build from the ground up, and so many teams have done that. And I feel like that's the quickest way to fail. Luckily, May seems to be so good that a shit O-line and below average receivers are not hindering him like it did to Mac Jones. But Mac also didn't have an OC, so.
I will also say, I think May's playmaking ability is just far superior than anything Mac Jones had. But I've seen a lot of people talking about it just on social media, and I just think it's a horrible take. Van Pelt has been awesome. Anyone who thinks Van Pelt has been a bad coordinator for New England, it's just a bad and wrong statement.
I agree.
He's been amazing. For what he's taken this offensive done, can you blame him for Booty, Polk, Baker, Pop Douglas? All these guys have dropped and made plays. Even just the week or the game that just happened, we saw Pop run away from a football that led to an interception. At what point do we go, maybe it's not Pelt doing much wrong and the receivers and stuff need to step up more? So I'm excited to see Pelt and May next year. I would love to see them just go for O-line and free agency and draft a top-end receiver. I think, one, because that's just more exciting to see us draft a wide receiver. But two, do we really think T. Higgins is a wide receiver one? Do we really think he takes this Patriots offense and fixes all the issues? Or do you think getting a wide receiver in the draft that could potentially end up being a Chase Neighbors type guy is way more worth the risk?
Nikos, what do you think?
I do like the T. Higgins grab, but then again, trying to push your luck at a nice young player who can go into one of those guys, like you said, Chase or Neighbors, would be much more beneficial for an offense like the Patriots with a young QB to kind of package deal with him.
Nikos, you played receiver. Do you think T. Higgins can be a wide receiver one quality, or is he just a high-end wide receiver two?
It's hard to tell.
His own guy.
It's hard to tell because he's been behind Jamar Chase, who's never going to not be a wide receiver one.
Yeah.
And I feel like T. Higgins has those qualities that sometimes show. But, you can't really say he's been held back because even as a wide receiver two, you can still kind of drift out of that wide receiver one, that wide receiver two spot and try to take that wide receiver one job. But it's just hard with
I think he's just Juju 2.0. I think it's
the
Juju situation.
I don't think he's
again.
Juju 2.0.
He's gonna leave. He's gonna leave Cincinnati and he's gonna go somewhere. And I don't think he falls off as much as Juju did. But I think T. Higgins is gonna be looked at and be like, wow, this guy got helped out a lot by having Chase across from him. Because it wasn't even for a while, it wasn't even just Chase across from him. They still had Tyler Boyd, who I don't think people remember. Tyler Boyd was the wide receiver one there for a while and was putting up really good numbers. You had Joe Mixon in the backfield. T. Higgins at one point was barely the third option on that offense. I don't think he can be the focal point of an offense. And I think it's the same thing with IU. The two of them are wide receiver twos on great quarterback roster teams that are being pushed up way too much. And I don't want New England to fall into that trap.
I will say this real quick. Of all the, let's call them just the high-end wide receiver twos, okay? So there's T. Higgins, Addison, Jalen Waddle, and Brandon Ayuk. Let's just say those 4 guys. I think T. Higgins, out of those 4, is probably the best receiver out of the 4. I think I'd have him at the top of the list. So if you're going to get one and try and convert them into a wide receiver 1, it might as well be T. Higgins.
I think Addison has more potential, though. But I do agree, yeah.
More potential, but not as good right now.
Yeah. So
I'm excited to see what
his last few games too.
that offense is going to do with JJ next year.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be really interesting because Sam Darnold, he's shown flashes of what he was with the Jets. In a couple different weeks, he's done it. And I think there's also been other points where Justin Jefferson is showing the X factor potential out of the receiver position because Sam Darnold, other times, he looks like he's just lasering down Jefferson and just saying, man, please catch this. And he will 9 times out of 10 because it's Justin Jefferson. But it really does feel like Sam Darnold, it is part of the system. He's not going to be a top, 8, 10 QB anywhere else. He'll be mid. He'll be all right. But I feel like with most other teams, he's just more of an average QB, more like on the Geno Smith level, but he's being propped up by the offensive system around him and the players around him that are just so good.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
So now
do we think he
what?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say, do you think Giants? You think Giants for Darnold? Opposite end of New York?
Yo.
I mean, I could see it. I think it would be a terrible decision. Maybe not terrible, but it would be the best decision.
I don't like it.
Yeah, that's true. They are going to eat that money, though. If you guys have seen Daniel Jones benched, but a big reason for Daniel Jones being benched is the injury clause, which is, I think, let's talk about this real quick. Russell Wilson got benched last year for his injury clause. Jimmy Garoppolo got told never come back into this building again because of your injury clause. I think Derek Carr had something similar with his injury clause, and now Daniel Jones with his injury clause. I think there legit has to be a rule. If you want to bench your QB, you can go ahead and bench him. Okay, we get it. Daniel Jones sucked. Wilson, he wasn't sucking, but he wasn't high. He wasn't Pittsburgh Wilson. Definitely wasn't Seattle Wilson. But teams just shoveling players down their roster for injury bonus related reasons, I think that shouldn't be allowed. It just almost feels like a loophole. You get that total number to look higher than it is originally, but you can cut down that money so quickly by making an injury guarantee and then making sure he can't get injured by literally not even letting him practice. That's what we're talking about. They're not just benching. They're saying don't even show up to practice because if you get hurt on our premises, we're locked in for another year. And I just think it's weird.
I feel like that's on the player though. As the player, you know that's a possibility that if you play horrible and the team isn't going to win or do much with you, they're going to bench you either way. So the injury clause is just a preventative method, but I think it's a horrible method for players to go for because I think guys like Daniel Jones should know, I'm not that good. There's always a good chance that I'm going to suck and get benched. So I think it's more on the player in these situations. Yeah. Because, if you're Mahomes or, Josh Allen, you're going to maybe want to put something like that in your thing because every year you're going to compete. Every year you're not going to get benched. So, why not throw that in there just to protect yourself? But, as a guy like Daniel Jones, that's your own fault. That's your own fault.
Isn't it almost on the agents then? Because a lot of this, the players just show up and are told, just sign here. The agent got you a good deal. Do agents need to be more conscious of who their clients are and be like, hey, there's a chance this injury clause backfires on us? Russell Wilson was shocking. I'm more surprised Daniel Jones has a Russell Wilson type injury clause in his contract to begin with.
I'm sure they're not even.
I don't think Daniel Jones
when they sign the contract.
That's true. They probably aren't thinking about, yo, what's that injury clause looking like if
They
I
just
get benched?
Daniel Jones has seen the money. He's like, ooh, I like you.
He definitely wasn't. He getting $40 million a year to be
I don't think
at
he's
best a
complaining.
wild card loss.
Because in
I
his
could
book,
suck
like
this bad
even
and
with
make
this
this much
like
money.
clause, he's still getting a ton of money. So like, why not just throw it in there? Because like on the off chance you play good, you're now protected. And he's probably like, I mean, if I play bad, I'm going to lose probably money. There's probably some other clause to throw in there to make it so they can get rid of him. I mean, like at the end of the day, do we really think the Giants are going to pay him so much money without having an escape? Like,
I mean, I knew about the part where it was basically out of the 4-year deal, it was really a 2-year deal with an out to cut him after before you're locked into like the other 2 years. I didn't realize about the injury clause part though. That's just the part that kind of got me. I knew there was an out though. I knew they knew it was a risky deal. Which I also find funny that they knew that this deal was so likely to backfire to make it only a 2-year deal, but then still not pay Saquon. But what are you gonna
to
do?
be fair, they offered Saquon a lot of money. Saquon like kind of threw a fit over like a few million.
I mean, when you're a running back, they're the most underpaid position in the NFL. Saquon's ranked, I think Pat McAfee's did a thing, and it's like Saquon, out of every player in the NFL, he was ranked like 94th highest paid. And then it was like Derrick Henry was like 130, and then Joe Mixon was like 230 in the NFL. Like running backs are like Saquon Barkley is nowhere near the 94th ranked player in the NFL, and he does a lot more for that team than 94th would be placed.
Same with Joe Mixon right now.
Yeah, like I get the thought of like, oh, don't sign a running back past 30 because the numbers are there. You shouldn't do it. I get it, be a little weary of a running back at 29, but like Mixon's like 28. Saquon's only 26. Like if you're in your prime, I don't understand how they've gotten running backs to be like, yeah, I'm in my prime. I still can't get more. Or I don't get teams being so scared to hand a 26-year-old running back more than $12 million a year when you're giving them the ball 250 times a year.
They think they're gonna end up with a Miles Sanders situation.
I mean, it's so weird because like for every running back that booms and completely makes their contract look like a mockery, there's a running back that is proving why you don't pay running backs. It's like,
to be fair,
it's a scary
I think it's kind of
spot.
obvious though. Like, I can't believe Miles Sanders got that contract. Like, he didn't even do anything in Philly. I feel like that was that much, like, wow, let's pay this guy. But, like, it was Carolina, so.
Yeah, I feel like it's more of just a couple bad apples. I mean, there was Miles Sanders. Zeke, he was a constant getting worse every year. Like, there's just a couple bad apples, but for the most part, something I've started realizing over the last week or so is that running backs hold their value to 30, 31 pretty well overall. It's mainly just there's a couple running backs that peak their rookie year and just slowly come back down from there. Miles Sanders, Zeke, but I feel like for the most, like I said, people hold their value a lot better than running backs get credit for.
There's just so much more risk. Because, like, look at guys like Todd Gurley. Like, Todd Gurley had a short career when we really think about it.
Yeah,
like,
that leg arthritis.
And I just think it's, like, so always scary for teams to pay so much money because, like, yeah, it'll work out majority of the time. But it works out way less than it does for every other position, which is the difficulty.
That's true.
I think another position that it happens a lot about, or with, that I don't see a lot of people talking about is corner. Like, corners kind of fall off sometimes, even after a year. Like, Sauce, like, don't get me wrong, Sauce is still one of the best corners in the league, but, like, Sauce went from being, like, the number one guy to, like, well, he's top 5, top 8.
Yeah.
Like, he really fell off after one really good year.
Yeah, and young corners, I feel like this has been crazy to me with just how well young corners have been exploding. I mean, the Eagles rookie corner is like one of the best
Oh,
corners in the NFL right now. He's on like a Revis
The
Island
white
type
duo.
run. Yeah. But he's on like a Revis type run right now. And there's other young corners like Pat Surtain balled out his rookie year, continuing to ball out. I forget, he's slipping my name right now, but the Broncos' second corner that they drafted recently, he's been a ball. Like young rookie corners, and Christian Gonzalez in New England, young corners in general have been exploding onto the scene recently.
It's just the speed, I think, a lot of it. I mean, like, so many like older guys a few years ago could still keep up because receivers used to be like slower and bigger. Like Julio Jones type wide receivers existed a lot more. But I feel like there's way more like Tyreek Hill type guys that are all speed. And you got to be young and athletic to keep up. And so you see guys like John Jones in New England. Like 2 years ago, this guy was like, oh yeah, he could be a number one corner for New England. And now it's like, wow, like he's like falling to almost our fourth option. So it's like even just like a 1-2 year drop off and like slowly losing a step or two, like you're gonna fall down because you can't keep up with guys like Jefferson Chase.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That goes a lot into the way the NFL is changing. Just leaning way more into like athleticism rather than physicality. But I think it is interesting. Young corners should be going more and more in the first round, I feel like.
Yeah. And so now back to what initially started this talk about 20 minutes ago that we haven't answered at all. Playoff predictions. So
do we want to skip it again or?
We could. No, okay. Just so we can spit it out before we get more in depth with some crazier picks and all. Base pick, I'll go Lions over Ravens. 28-21. What about you, Nikos? You next.
I was thinking the Steelers are gonna beat the Ravens in that
in the playoffs?
Yeah.
I mean, they just did it. They did just do it in the regular season. I did call the Steelers a contender, so I can't be that shocked by it. But I respect that pick. Okay, so then who do you think's gonna be in the final dance?
I wanted to say Lions Steelers just because I said that, but
go with it. Do it. Lock it in.
No, Lions Steelers. I hate the Chiefs. Screw the Chiefs.
Or anyone but the Chiefs. Evan, what about you? You wanted to be saved for last.
So I will say my two hot takes go more to the championship games rather than the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl, pretty lame, pretty basic. Buffalo versus Lions.
I don't mind the Buffalo pick. I don't.
I think Buffalo is having a New England type year where so many guys got hurt and they traded away their number one wide receiver and everyone's like, they got no wide receivers, no help. It's all Allen. Those were always the years where Brady did his best work. That's why I think Bills are on their Patriot type season. But I think on the other side, the reason why I said this is a hot take, I think the Bucs have a late season revival. And I think it'll be Buccaneers versus Lions and Chargers versus Buffalo.
I do think the Bucs.
I think Chargers are going to make that game closer than Buffalo would like. Because I don't think it's crazy to say the Chargers might make the bowl at this point. Like top 3 defense, maybe the top defense in the league right now. The pass game is finally clicking. The run game, even though JK is not doing as good by himself, it's doing better overall. Like that Chargers team is scary.
No, yeah.
And if they don't win it this year or make it this year, next year.
And outside of the receivers, like they're not like an overly young team. Like they got a lot of guys year 4 or 5 that are really entering their prime. Like they are ready to, except for receiver, they are young at receiver, which is a good thing. When everything else, and they paid heavy on defense. Like they got ready, and they also shedded some guys from that old regime. But I actually really like that Chargers pick. But okay, we all got, and I actually really like the Bucs because they'll be getting Mike Evans back. That offense will be coming back. But real quick, since all 3 of us seem to have the Detroit Lions actually going all the way, Who else is an NFC sleeper team that if the Lions don't make it, you're saying they are probably the ones that are going to make it?
Atlanta.
I was just about to say.
Oh, both of you
I
going
like
Atlanta?
Atlanta and I like Green Bay.
Ooh, interesting.
Not the
I don't
Eagles.
like Arizona.
Not the Eagles.
Arizona is playing really good this year, but I just don't think I can see Kyler Murray in a championship game outplaying a Kirk Cousins, Jordan Love, or Goff. Like, that's just not going to happen. Eagles, I don't really. I know a lot of people probably are going to say Eagles being a contender is not a crazy take. I think it's a crazy take. I think Sirianni is a horrible coach, and I think he's holding that Eagles team back from being a Super Bowl team. That Eagles team is so stacked to the point where why are they not considered better than the Lions? And if you swapped head coaches between the Eagles and Lions, I think this Eagles team is doing what Detroit is doing, but better. And I think Sirianni needs to be fired before I'm going to take the Eagles serious. But I think Green Bay, they've got the coach, quarterback, running back, wide receivers, defense, O-line. Packers have everything going for them. Jordan Love just needs to reel himself in. And Atlanta, I mean, like, they've had some injuries in a few games. They've thrown themselves. But when you've got Bijan, Drake, London, Kyle Pitts, and, like, that defense is probably middle of the pack. I don't know if I would say they're, like, elite, but definitely middle of the pack. I mean, like, there's always a chance with, like, a nice, young, confident I almost said young quarterback, but older quarterback that's confident in Kirk. But I think other than those, I don't really see anyone. I mean, like,
Jaden
unless
Daniels
Dallas
in his rookie year.
That could happen. Brady won his first year starting. So did Russell Wilson.
I think Daniel's a year away.
I think Wilson might actually done it in his second year. But what about you, Nikos? Outside of
And
Detroit,
again, Russell
who's got a
Wilson
real
making
shot?
it back to the Super Bowl.
It could happen. Who you got, Nikos? Real shot. NFC.
Falcons, like he said.
Oh, you're going Falcons too. Okay, I'll be fun. I'll go the Eagles. Fuck it. Even with Nick Sirianni, I do think there are better head coaches than Nick Sirianni. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a little overhated. He just gets a little emotional. He gets a little loud. But I don't hate him. I still think the Eagles just have so much talent. Falcons, sometimes they're on, sometimes they're off. Green Bay, I think they're a year or two away. Like you said, Evan, Jordan Love, he's good. He has a hell of an arm. He has been inconsistent with his accuracy. He has thrown a pick. I think he's only missed one game without a pick. And so if you're averaging at least a pick a game, I just can't trust you in the playoffs yet. Plus, the rest of that team is really young. Give me 2 years on the Packers. Cardinals, yeah, there's just other teams I just like. I don't think they're that good. I mean, right now they're in there because they're winning their division. I don't even think they'll win their division when it's all said and done. I could easily see the Rams, Niners. I could see any of those other teams taking that division. I don't think the Cardinals are even going to be around.
I will say, speaking of that division, that's another two teams I think we could throw on the contender board potentially. Yeah. 49ers and Rams. I mean, like, Rams are 2-1 since they got a lot of these guys back. The Rams are a scary offense. I just don't know if the defense is really there. And I mean, like, 49ers were just there the other year. Could we see the 49ers fix this late season? I don't think they do. I do think CMC coming back helps and everything, but Debo's definitely fallen off.
No, Ayuk out for a year. Kittle's been
Jennings definitely stepped
up,
but, like, I don't know. I just think the 49ers are going to have to retool up this offseason, which I think they will, and be back strong next year. But I just think this year, it's one of those years where you see a team just kind of, like, flop the season, but I don't think it's necessarily that they suck now. It's just happened. Like, look at the Bengals. Like, I think same with the Bengals. Same spot almost.
Yeah. Similar story, a little different, but I see where you're coming from. Rams, I could see making mine under deep. See, it's like their offense is so ready to go. Their defense is just a little young. They're still progressing. They're still plugging in some holes. I think they'll probably make the playoffs next year, not this year. I could see them missing out. Minnesota, they don't scare me at all, honestly. I think they're a really good regular season team. They're not going to be built for the postseason. Washington's intriguing for the future, not this year. AFC sleeper picks, do you guys have any? I mean, Nikas came out with the Steelers, which that surprised me in general. I think the Bills would not. I could see the Bills breaking through. I do like the Chargers as a sleeper pick. Just first year doing it for Jim Harbaugh. That's the only part that got me. See, all these teams, I'm like, they're 1 or 2 years away. But the Chargers, they're there. It's just like, I don't know how much I trust a first-year head coach to get it done. But it's been done plenty of times before. I mean, John Gruden did it first year at Tampa Bay back in 2002, and he got lucky that he was facing his former team. Now, maybe that could happen for Jim Harbaugh. He plays the Niners. That would be funny. But I don't know. Just something about the Chargers is holding me up.
I just want an interesting Super Bowl. That's all I want.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want.
Do you guys think there's any chance
shit again? Fuck that.
The Bengals win out?
Winning out. Let me take a look at their.
They have to win out, I think, to make it basically at this point.
Yeah, they're 4-7 right now. So.
But
let me take a look at their games.
Is so good, and if they can
no, they're not winning out. Do you know who they're playing next? They got the Steelers. They're not beating Russell Wilson.
Win against the Steelers. They can win that game.
Legitimately, they're not beating the Steelers. The Steelers eked out a win against Baltimore. The Bengals are nowhere near Baltimore's level.
I mean, they almost beat them. What are you talking about? They almost beat them the other week.
Okay, yes, they almost beat them.
I
know. Okay. I know. It was close. It was high scoring. But the Steelers just have with TJ Watt on that Steelers defense. The Bengals are not going to be able to score on that defense. Not like they could against Baltimore's defense. I think Pittsburgh just in general has a better defense that's going to help them in this game. That in general, I think Pittsburgh just they are a little more conservative. They're not as high scoring. They're going to want the time of possession. Baltimore's down to go in a shootout with you. Pittsburgh's not.
You're forgetting the greatest kicker of all time right now.
Chris Boswell?
Bro, Boswell is a baller.
24 points last game.
He had 24?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Because they only kicked field goals.
And I knew
only
that.
Kicked field goals that entire game. It was just
I didn't realize he ended up putting 24.
He was automatic.
No, but yeah, I still think, I mean, even then, the Bengals, say they get past the Steelers. Then they got the Cowboys. Let me just, you know what? Let me do this real quick. But then they got the Cowboys, right? And then after that, they got the Tennessee Titans. Those two are very easily wins. I think they could easily get wins. Here we go. Perfect. Let's go to this. So looking at this, right, as we take a look here. So they got the Steelers. I think that's a loss, but it's winnable. Then you got the Cowboys and Titans. I think they can win both. The Browns, it's winnable. Broncos, that's tough. I just can't imagine them winning out with this schedule right here. Do you guys think it's possible?
I don't see them beating the Steelers, but I see them beating Titans, Cowboys.
I mean, I could see them splitting with the Steelers. I can't see them winning both of them, though. I mean, they barely beat, like, they needed one of the wins against the Ravens. They needed that. Did they beat okay, yeah, they did by a touchdown. Okay. But really looking at this, oh my God, I didn't realize this really, though. Cincinnati, like, every game they've played so far has been a one-score game. Okay, except Carolina and New York. So the two really shit teams. Oh, and they got kicked in the ass by the Eagles. But just so many one-score games. I can't imagine every single one-score game going their way. I just can't personally. I think they'll be back next year with Bill Belichick and win 13 games. But as long as Zach Taylor's their head coach, I mean, Zach Taylor, he was a shit. His job got saved by Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. His job got saved by LSU because he was shit that first year. coaching. And then his second year, when it was just Joe Burrow, no Jamar Chase, he was dog shit again. And it was only
Burrow
once.
got hurt that year too.
Yeah, and he hasn't really shown. I mean, the Bengals have never really had an impressive backup QB, but I feel like Zach Taylor hasn't shown to be a great head coach. He's had some really talented rosters that offensively have been able to overpower other teams, but as we're starting to head more towards a more defensive league, at least this year has been a lot more run and defensive heavy. Zach Taylor, weaknesses are really coming through. Like, I think out of the 7 to 9 head coaching possibilities, he's probably at the top of my list. That he's probably not going to have a job.
I'm surprised he didn't get canned last year. I really thought he was going to.
Mm-hmm. I had seen it. Also, I think we should just real quickly just put a point on the fact that now obviously we avoided the Chiefs, but something we also inadvertently have done is just ignored the Texans. So how do you guys really feel about the Texans? And like, can they make a serious run, or are they just going to be kind of like there, be a good playoff team, and be kind of reminiscent of what they were in the early 2010s, where they were like an AFC divisional lost lock?
I mean, CJ Stroud isn't playing as good as he did last season. He's throwing a lot more picks, and he hasn't been as safe with the ball, even with his amount of targets he has and that he can throw to. But I still seeing them being a good contender in the case that they have so many weapons. But I don't think they win clutch situations. I don't think CJ Stroud can drive down the field.
I don't want to count them out. I do agree with Nico. Stroud's played worse. I just think it's weird with the Texans because I do really think, like on paper, this Texans team probably should be the favorite in the AFC. But I don't know. I just think we've said this a lot, but I think they're just a year or two away. I think just like a young new head coach, a young quarterback, young wide receivers. Like, I could see next year being a year where they just dominate the league. But I think this year, at least, we're just going to be like, okay, like, they're still figuring some stuff out, building an identity. Mm-hmm. But I think going into next year, that's when they'll be really scary. Especially because I think they're finding their new wide receiver 3 in Mechie. I think we're going to see, obviously, Diggs walk. And I think we'll see Mechie kind of take that third role. I think Tank Dell will continue to get better. Nico Collins, I think, just continues to get better. I mean, like, they just beat the Cowboys pretty strong, and it would have even been stronger if they didn't pull away a 60 or 70-yard touchdown from Nico Collins on the first play of the game.
Bro's still upset about that.
But I think that's actually a good point about, real quick, we're running out of time, but real quick, I just want to mention that something that I feel like people have started kind of like abandoning, and I think this has something to do with like the social media and how fast things happen now, is that there is still the classic, you might have a good rookie year, but then you're still going to have that sophomore slump where odds are you're going to take a step back because teams get tape on you and everything. So that second year is tremendously harder than the first year, and Stroud has still looked good for a sophomore slump. He's having a pretty damn good slump. I mean, even Tom Brady in his sophomore slump year missed the playoffs. Okay, it has happened multiple times where QBs look worse their second year, and I mean that happens with all positions. Tank Dell, he's in his second year. Like, this Texans core is only in year 2, their sophomore year, so it makes sense that they take a step back before they really start hitting their full stride of really getting it going. I think they're in a great spot. I wouldn't be shocked by a run, but like, as of today, I'd pick the Chargers in that playoff matchup that they're currently lined up to have. I think the Chargers could win. I think the Chargers do win that game against the Texans.
I think they do as well.
I agree. Although I can see it being a very good game, close game coming down the wire.
Oh, yeah, I think it'll be close. I mean, I don't think the Chargers, this is the one thing the Chargers are really missing with, I mean, they shedded a lot of older players, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, all the others. They're just now missing that one. I mean, J.K. Dobbins can be a boom player. Don't get me wrong. But they're really and Quentin Johnston's developing, but they don't have that established star receiver that Justin Herbert can just ball it to. And I think that's just like the one thing they're missing. Yeah, I think, like I said, there's young guys there that are getting there. But that's the part where they're a year or two away. Before, like, Nico Collins already a receiver in his prime. The Chiefs are running around trying to get something. The Bills got Amari Cooper. Shakir's been a developing receiver. He's been there for a few years. Like, I think once these receivers just get another year or two, like, the Chargers might be the best team in the AFC. Even come in 365 days from now, I would not be shocked if the Chargers are the 1 seed. And we're talking about them going on like a legit first round bye Super Bowl run.
Yeah, I agree.
I like that take.
Chargers just need that extra year to build.
Mm-hmm. Well, boys, that's it for this one. We had a long talk, a lot of predictions. We'll see you guys all next week. Thanksgiving week. Happy early Thanksgiving. Next week will be our Thanksgiving special. Can't wait for that. I know what we'll be releasing probably going to be better than what you'll see on the field with Tommy DeVito and Cooper Rush being a primetime football matchup on a holiday. But that's what happens when you swear to the Cowboys that they will always have
Tommy
Thanksgiving.
DeVito.
Yeah, at least
My
the
money's on
Lions
Tommy
are good
DeVito.
now. Wait, real quick. Lions, will they break their Thanksgiving loss streak that's still active of like 30 years or some shit? It's insane. Yeah, Nico, do you think they break the loss streak or do you think Destiny's still with them?
No way. If they do, then I'll just be like, what is this curse they have? What is this Drake curse they have?
Just on Thanksgiving, who knows? Well, boys, we'll see you then. Take it easy and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Peace.